Okay, we're live.
Nice.
For some reason, I don't see it live. No, there you go.
Yeah, I see.
No.
I see the live button. I actually don't see. I actually don't see where we can see how many people are in the call or watching it.
I show you.
Okay.
It's here.
Where'd you post it? Oh, okay. Boom.
So there's no one in. Maybe we should wait for people a little bit.
Okay.
Do that.
Yeah, we can wait. Let's see. Is it? Okay. Sort of watching us right now. It's a little meta.
Looking great. I want why. Alexis, if for no one, Alexis is watching us right now. So.
Wait, what? You said Alexis is watching?
Yes.
Nice. Classic.
Before, so I don't think she can actually write, or I can see her name in the chat.
Yeah. Well, it seems like there's 4 people watching right now. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a secret third person out there.
So I can say hi, people. We just waiting a little bit. Let's see more people coming live, and we wait 5 minutes, and then we.
Sounds good. So how about that price spike? You know, in the U.S. Which is where I'm from. For those who don't know, there's this holiday that just happened called Thanksgiving, where you're supposed to give thanks for all the various things that you're thankful for. And what I'm thankful for is the price rise right now in crypto.
But see, like, you're friends, right? Like,
what
does it impact? Like, can you feel the impact? Because in the United States, is like much more.
Well, I mean,
more, right?
You're talking about the holiday, or you're talking about the crypto stuff?
The holiday.
Oh yeah, well they don't care about the holiday in France. I mean the holiday is specifically a holiday around when American settlers or European settlers in America had a dinner with the Native Americans, and like we're sort of being peaceful with one another during this time, and it's like celebration of the different cultures sort of intermingling among each other. And the thing that you have, the main thing is like a big, nice, juicy turkey. But I don't actually think that you can buy turkey in France. I think it just doesn't exist here. So I haven't been able to. I have a friend who invited me for like an American expat dinner tomorrow, but it's gonna be tofurkey because she's vegan.
Like, do you get to see like the real like tofu turkey like in the table and stuff?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So the question is, does it look like they molded a turkey out of tofu, or is it just a giant like blob of just like?
Doesn't sound like too to me.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, not. I'm not going to make it, and it's not because of the tofurkey, but
But now, but seriously, like, do you really feel there's any impact, like any relationship between Black Friday, Thanksgiving, and the price rising of Bitcoin and Ethereum right now?
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. like people are buying crypto because of Black Friday. Well, I mean, people aren't getting discounts because of Black Friday, so it wouldn't be because of that. But I mean, it's hard to really say. But the one thing that is kind of interesting is in this sort of bull run, you actually see the altcoins all rising right now. Like Ethereum is like at like 450 or something like that after being at 300 for a while, and Bitcoin Cash is at like 1600, and I wrote an article on IOTA, and like it was at like $1.5 billion market cap, and it like briefly hit like 3 billion pretty recently. But maybe people are just really happy and full of turkey, and so they decide, screw it, I'll just put some money into Bitcoin and crypto right now.
Yeah, like they want to be thankful for all the profit over the year by buying some more Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly. This is how they give thanks to the world. This is my charity. I'm going to buy Bitcoin.
Do you think people are going into alts because of the price of Bitcoin's too high? Alexis is like dropping the ball. Do you think that the price the people are going to altcoins because now Bitcoin is getting too high?
Oh yeah, I mean, so this is the classic situation. People are looking at Bitcoin, and they say, okay, I missed the ball on Bitcoin. So, what's the next thing? Everyone's always saying that, but the thing is that people have always been saying this. This is always the mindset. When I came in 2013, people were thinking, oh, I missed it. The price spiked from $100 to $1,000. It's not going anywhere from here. So people are always thinking this, and this is what sparked all the creation of all and the growth of all these altcoins that no one really pays attention to anymore, like Dogecoin, which is obviously a very legitimate cryptocurrency, Dogecoin, and essentially what people I think should be thinking about when it comes to this question is, have I missed the ball? The answer, although I'm not a financial advisor, the answer is, well, if you look at Bitcoin and you compare it to like the different systems that exist out in the world, and like what is it potentially going to displace? Well, let's think of one of the use cases, store of value, right? You look at gold. Gold has an $8 trillion market cap. Bitcoin has $130 billion market cap, and the whole crypto market has a $250 billion market cap. So when you look at it like that, there's a tremendous amount of room to grow for Bitcoin to even just compete with a system like gold, right? Since gold is viewed today as the best store of value, mainly because it's scarce and it's not controlled by governments. It's separate. It's essentially resistant towards geopolitical manipulation. So when it comes to Bitcoin, you have the same thing. It's scarce. It's resistant to geopolitical manipulation, but it's also easier to hold, easier to move, easier to transact with. I mean, you literally can't buy, a good from China and Brazil with gold, but you can do it with Bitcoin. And so I think that this concept of, oh, I missed the boat is kind of missing the point, right? It's sort of like saying, oh, there's this really cool thing that not that many people are using, but it's already gone up in value. So let's try and bet on, something that's not nearly as good or interesting as this first thing, and then hope that takes off, right? Okay, let me bet in I don't know. Let me bet into copper. I mean, copper's not really a good example, but it's like, let me bet into copper instead of this gold thing. Why? Oh, because because we're already using gold as the gold standard. And then,
or sterling silver, you could say.
Yeah, sure, exactly. Sterling silver. Yeah, exactly. Let's bet into sterling silver, because we've already lost all our opportunity with gold. But this is just how the market is looking at all this stuff, and how people sort of sit there and they say, I've missed the boat, right? The currency, the value's gone up so much. There's no, I got to find something else. So let me just like come up with something in my mind of why this other technology is interesting and go into it. But I think that in 2013 or 2014, like a lot of people would miss the point, right? So right now you actually have altcoins that are doing somewhat interesting things, but previously, like the original altcoins, all they were you would take Bitcoin, you would fork it, and you would just get you would just make it so it had faster transaction times, or it would have lower fees. It would have more coins. Instead of 21 million, it'd be like a billion coins or something, right? And when you look at all this stuff, it's like, well, I mean, it's kind of interesting, but it's also just completely uninteresting at the same time, because it's not dramatically different from Bitcoin. It's not like this huge leap from Bitcoin. So why is anyone going to adopt it? I mean, Bitcoin has so much brand power and network behind it that for any coin that isn't significantly different and significantly more valuable to catch up, I think it's not that interesting. But what is kind of interesting, I was talking with this guy named Giacomo Zucco the other day. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a theoretical physicist and worked for Accenture for a while. He's from Italy, and he now runs this company called BHB, which is short for Blockchain Lab. But they changed the name because every single enterprise has their own blockchain lab now. So it's just like people think that it's some corporate some corporate enterprise arm, but no, it's its own consulting gig. And there's like two parts to it. One is that they do R&D into cryptocurrency, and they'll fund like people like Peter Todd and other Bitcoin core developers. And then they have a consulting arm. So that first one is like, all sort of like a nonprofit. And they have a for-profit arm where after they've done this R&D, they can turn it into presentations and recommendations of how one might integrate this R&D into an enterprise environment. So I was talking with this guy, and he has this pretty interesting point on Bitcoin Cash. He basically views Bitcoin Cash as purely an altcoin, but it's better than regular altcoins because it shares part of its history with Bitcoin. And so it shares parts of its history with Bitcoin, which means that part of the history is more trustworthy than other altcoins. But then it does an airdrop, and what ends up happening is that all the people who put money into Bitcoin, get this airdrop, and this is all around this sort of theory that in the cryptocurrency space, we're going to end up having just like one coin, mainly because the network effect of having one coin is much more powerful than decentralizing it, because there's a sort of an exponential factor of having all the coins combined. Of all the network on one coin, right? If everyone uses the same coin, it's way better than if everyone has a different coin that they use. Is the concept, and people would rather trend towards having that. It's sort of the concept, and
everybody would move to Bitcoin Cash.
No. But what he's saying is that when you have a regular altcoin, what you do is you're taking away some of the network effect, right? Where there's less of a network effect on Bitcoin in general, and you're essentially taking away value from Bitcoin. But with a fork coin, one of the value adds is that if you were an investor in Bitcoin, you would then also you would maintain the value that was created in the fork. So to put this another way, when there's an altcoin and value goes to that, value is just taken away from Bitcoin. But with fork coin, even though value is taken away from Bitcoin, the investors in Bitcoin maintain the same amount of value that they previously had. And so it's a better overall effect for the ecosystem than one in which you're essentially completely taking away value and network effect from a system. I mean, it's pretty interesting when you think about it, because you think about Bitcoin, and a lot of people ask, why so with Bitwage, right, we leverage this technology for paying workers across borders faster and cheaper, and people will be like, okay, so why are you using Bitcoin instead of one of these other cryptocurrencies, right? Like, why not use IOTA, for instance, right, which is free transactions, essentially the point is that, okay, so there might be systems that have some sort of technological feature advantage, but there's two things that they don't have. One is as deep and diverse of a crypto developer community as Bitcoin, where all of the development is done in open source and requires strict peer review of all the code before launching it, right? Because if you think about $130 billion, if you just launch some code and and it's not peer reviewed well enough, you might actually mess with the mechanic of a system without even realizing it, and have it not work out well. So an interesting example of this is you've got like the parity hacks that are happening right now. $100 million, gets locked up forever in these like parity multi-signature wallets. And this is like the second of two sort of events that happened, and parity is created by one of the original core developers of Ethereum, and so I mean the technology, the team is really good, but it just goes to show that having a very strict long peer review process is important for making sure that these kinds of mistakes don't occur. And so this is the one very good thing about Bitcoin, is that this exists, this process. But the other thing that's incredibly valuable is the liquidity in and of itself. So there's essentially two ways to think about it, which is liquidity from an investor perspective and liquidity from like a payment perspective. So you can go and you can buy and sell and trade any cryptocurrency, and there's really no difference between the two of them. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if IOTA is faster or cheaper than Bitcoin if I can't send $1 million from the U.S. to Brazil through IOTA. If I can, but I can do this to varying degrees and magnitudes with Bitcoin, right? I was just talking with one of the OTC, one of the top 10 to 15 OTC desks in the U.S., and they were saying that they do $2 billion a day in volume.
In Bitcoin alone, you mean?
Well, actually, that's in cryptocurrency, but Bitcoin is their majority, so it's a big number. And you don't get to see these numbers because they're all off exchange, right? So when you look at like the numbers on like CoinMarketCap, it doesn't include the off exchange transactions because they don't get to measure that data.
In the last event that we had, like the Bitcoin conference here in Brasilia, and there were a lot of peer-to-peer traders. They were saying that the volume that they do, that the peer-to-peer traders do in Brazil is just as big as all the other exchanges summed up. So the volume that we think we see in Brazil is actually twice the real one.
Wait. The volume that you see in Brazil is twice the. You mean the real is twice what you see?
There is this website called Bitvalor, and then there you can check how much Bitcoin has been transactioned over a period, over the month in this case, and it shows like it's been around like half of $150 million a month. It's been around that in Brazil.
Yep.
But they say the number is actually twice. So Brazil's being dealing with $300 billion a month of the peer-to-peer transactions that people don't account for.
Nice.
Because they don't. Yeah, they're.
And are those
with the table, so to say?
Do you know if those are like when you say peer-to-peer, does that mean like I'm sending Bitcoin to you, or does that mean I'm sending Bitcoin to you and you're giving me Brazilian real?
Both sides. In some cases, like they're like those peer-to-peers, they claim, of course, it's all like a hearsay, Mm-hmm. But they have like they all hold great quantities of Bitcoin, and they trade it. So not only they buy Bitcoins, but they also sell the Bitcoins.
Got it. Okay. Interesting. I guess they're doing like big trades though, right? So I imagine on exchanges you get the average everyday people, but these guys are talking with the whales. The people that gotta hire kidnapping insurance to make sure that that doesn't have to happen.
Right. They say like they do around 50 Bitcoin daily. A single transaction of 10 or 15 Bitcoins in a single transaction. So I will actually had a long conversation with one of the biggest traders here in Brazil. I would have him probably in the next show. I even talked to him and I said, hey, don't you want to go live with me and talk a little bit about that so people can know a little bit? He said, sure. So probably next week or so, I'll have him on and he will talk more about it.
Nice. I wonder if he'll want to have a little Satoshi face outline just so that there's a little bit of anonymity involved in that conversation.
He made me positive for bit. I don't think it's necessary really. Mm-hmm. I mean, he doesn't really have to say who his customers are, I guess. Huh?
Yeah. No, that's cool. That seems pretty interesting to get someone like that on. Wait, how'd you end up meeting this guy? Where does one go to just meet one of the largest Bitcoin traders in Brazil.
I guess it's different from the US, I would say. Community in the US at all, but the community in Brazil, like we're really close, you know. You go to these events and you always see them, or you know, Facebook groups or WhatsApp groups, and you always see who they are. You know, we've been working with this like for about 2 years now, as you know. So, and then you know, it grew a lot since then.
Nice.
So everybody knows basically.
Interesting. Yeah, no, it's like it's kind of funny. Yeah, in the US, you know, you go to a conference, and the first time everyone's new, you know, and then you go to another conference and you kind of know like 10% of the people, and then by the time you know you've been going to conferences for a year, now it's just like half the people at the conference, and at this point the conference is basically just like a party with like all the friends that you've met over the past year, right?
Yeah, here like you probably see like, you know, those you go to these conferences and they're like these, you know, faces that you should probably see when you go there.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, then
everybody.
You're sending emails to all the people that you usually see at the conference. Hey, you're gonna be there? Let's get coffee. Let's catch up. Let's do this. Let's do that. So you'll have a full schedule of like the same people, you know, every time.
It tends to change, though. I think that, you know, 2018, in one of the reasons why, you know, we're going live, you know, more now than ever. It's because like 2018 is said to be the year where Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is going to get, you know, popular, and the average person will be able to join in somehow. These big banks are going to start working on it as well and start their own exchange, their own exchanges, Bitcoin exchanges. Actually, in Brazil right now, like there is probably, I don't know, 10 to 15 exchanges now.
Oh wow!
Probably next year, you know, yeah. I don't know. It seems like there will be an exchange in every corner soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure with all the with such a high price right now, I mean, everyone is trying to jump the gun and get in, right? It's crazy because
you have to consider that 2017, like we went from like $1,000, and we probably like finished the year with 10,000.
Yeah, it's really crazy because, you know, for the longest time, you know, the Bitcoin was in a bear market. You know, it was at 1,000, went to 200, and stayed between like 200 and 400, you know, for 2 years. And everyone's like, this Bitcoin thing is dead. And, you know, we're just sitting here like, no, this is a really cool technology. It's going to take off. And now it's like, you know, to the moon, one might say. But it's interesting because
it all happened. I was going to say that this all happened. This 1,000 to 10,000. Mm-hmm. Actually, it's more like 1,200 to 8,000 so far. But everybody's they reached. It's like 8 as we talk. It's like 8,600 probably. Yeah, and everybody's saying reach 10,000 by the end of the year. So, and people expect 2018 to go from 10,000 to 20,000, at least repeat what it done last year.
I mean, that'd be pretty cool. I'd be happy.
Never too late.
Yeah. Exactly. It's never too late to start getting your Bitcoin stash going. I mean, I know that for a while, you know, it's kind of interesting. Everyone, one thing that we do at Bitwage, you know, everyone is getting paid at least a portion of their wage in Bitcoin, right? So, you know, for the people who've been with us since, you know, I mean, we started in 2014, and you know, people who've basically been on payroll since we've been going on. Everything that they've had in Bitcoin, it's basically turned into an entire salary in and of itself, right?
If we take, like, if we consider that all of these users, at least half of them never really spent those Bitcoins, like we have, you know, a list of millionaires in our payroll, right? we know the new millionaires of this century.
Yeah, the new Bitcoin. Yeah, all the people who decide to keep 100% of their wage in Bitcoin and didn't need to spend it all.
Something like that.
Yeah. Oh man, could you imagine just like sitting here and like getting your entire wage in Bitcoin during this 2-year streak when it's like $200 to $400 a Bitcoin, you know? So you're getting a few Bitcoins every pay period.
I have an estimate that that since I started working with Bitcoin, had I really kept it all, my wages that I receive in Bitcoin, I would probably be very close to retiring right now.
Yeah, seriously.
What do you think? Let's address some of Alexis' questions here before we leave. I think it's a good idea.
Okay. I can't even see the question, so
it's on the YouTube link.
Oh, it's on the YouTube link. Okay.
Yeah. The first one is: do you see Bitcoin becoming political when you have these major debates in the community? Becoming I don't know if I understand fully the question, but I will have you go first. Do you see Bitcoin becoming political when you have these major debates in the community about forking and transaction speed and all of that?
Oh, okay. So this is so what's up with the politics of Bitcoin, right? What is this Segwit 2x and Bitcoin Cash and Segwit and Legacy Chain and all this crap? Right, what's going on? Okay. I mean, you could kind of say it's political to a certain degree. I mean, you could think of Bitcoin almost as like an ultimate democracy. There's like three things happening. You have a autocracy. You have an autocracy in who are developing the software. You have a corporatocracy. Verifying that transactions aren't being double spended, aka miners, and then you have a democracy with the nodes who basically choose which software to run and which transactions are valid and all this stuff, right? So you have all these three things that are happening all at the same time that all have power within the ecosystem. There's power struggles between it all, right? So the developers can make code and the miners and the nodes can reject it. The miners can do transactions and the nodes can reject it. The miners can come up with new technologies and the developers can sort of write code that counter those technologies if the nodes implement it. And the nodes can run certain software that they want, but if there's no one mining the technology, then no new blocks are created. And if the difficulty is too high, then you might never, and there's no one mining it, then you might not ever get a new block found, or it might just take forever or something like that. And so these three groups have to be in somewhat of a consensus. Someone has to give in or everyone has to agree. If everyone disagrees, nothing happens. This is what we saw in the scalability debate for like 3 years. It's like, the miners and developers couldn't agree on which track to go. And so, is it going to get politicized? I mean, you might say that this is already happening, right now, that people are sort of playing politics to a certain degree. But at the end of the day, you have developers who are building on an ideological stance, and you have the miners who want to profit maximize. And then you have the nodes, which most of the nodes are on the side of the developers because it's mostly technical people that are running the nodes. And then you have users who are picking and choosing which side that they want. And so obviously, if you were a good business person, or if you were good at convincing people to believe in what you want, then there's going to be some politics on the convincing side of things, right? That's just how it is. It's just like if you have someone who is purely technical, and then you have someone who's very, political and charismatic. When it comes to the mainstream, it's easier for the mainstream to believe with the charismatic person, which I think is actually a core point to the Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash issue, because it seems very easy to follow Bitcoin Cash and because the Bitcoin Cash answer is like, oh yeah, change one line of code and then now transactions can be instant and free for everyone. Why wouldn't you want that? And then you politicize it and you say, oh yeah, the reason why you wouldn't want that is because you have some secret agenda of making it impossible for people to do any transactions. You say these lines and to someone who doesn't understand Bitcoin, it's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But to counter it, to counter it, with Bitcoin, it really ends up coming down to like a really deep understanding of this interaction between developers, miners, and nodes, and the fact that if you have a scaling system that right now it's 1 megabyte for 7 transactions per second, done extremely expensively and slowly. So if you want to get that to 24,000 transactions per second, which is Visa. I mean, you could do the math of how much you have to add. So there's several orders of magnitude more required on a storage capacity, a server processing, and an internet capability element of essentially running a node, which will make many nodes just not effective. If you can't upload the transactions to the blockchain at a rate faster than 10 minutes, then you're going to actually get more blocks than you're going to be able to upload. And so, if that's the case, then the people who are sort of running nodes in this environment are unable to do it. And so when you lose nodes over time, there are just less people to have to coerce to change the system and make it no longer trustless. And in theory, if you also want microtransactions and nanotransactions being done with like Internet of Things being done by 3 billion people in the world, you're gonna have to scale to even higher numbers than this. And at a certain point, it's just all going to be centralized so that only the people who are making profits, which are the miners, are able to run nodes. And so then the nodes are just part of a corporatocracy, and then the miners are also the nodes. Then they can reject the core developers, and as a result, you just have miners sort of running everything. And you might say, oh, whatever, miners are going to be okay, right? Because I mean, you can trust banks, I guess, kind of. As much as you can trust banks, you can trust miners. But is that really the system you want? Because like think about this. What if now that the coders are not there and no one's running nodes except for miners? What if the miners now say, okay, we're going to change the rules, and where between every transaction from point A to point C, the transaction is held by the nodes, by the miners or the nodes for some time, in which case it could be like spent or lent out in some degree or some manner, and then paid out afterwards. Once the miners essentially, once any party has total control of the system, they can change the rules of it. and and so as a result, it seems to me that there's issues around censorship, and as well as immutability, and not just of the ledger, but of the rules of the system, which can't be changed if it becomes decentralized.
Right, but so are you saying? Are you perhaps saying, John, that the nodes represent in a political spectrum? The nodes represent a more purist, or a kind of conservative, if you will, but purist in the sense of trying to preserve the original intent of Bitcoin, whereas the miners, they just want to represent what's best business-wise, so they're more like progressive in that sense. Would you put it like that?
Corporates,
the two parties,
are clearly looking out for to profit maximize. If you're not doing that, you're not a good corporate.
Yeah,
and the thing is that
the corporates, because they all have all this money invested in machines and everything, they want to see the return of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was doing the math, and Bitcoin is currently like a $3.5 billion. The mining industry is currently like a $3.5 billion industry, and you know, it's pretty big. It's starting to get pretty big, right? I mean, if you own 30%, if you own 30% of the network, you know, that's like $1 billion company. I mean, that's real, and that is an enterprise at that point. But you also might be thinking, you might be worrying about, you know, what's going to happen when the price halves, or when the reward halves, and when the reward halves again. So you want to, you know, keep in mind of this future, and that's why I think that's what's happening. Now, what's happening with the nodes right now? I mean, the nodes are sort of, I think of it as kind of like democracy, right? Anyone can vote. Being a node is a vote. That is your incentive to be a node. You can also hold your money and have your node be a wallet, but that's not why you have a node. You hold a node so that you can vote on the ecosystem, and you know, I guess there's some other privacy benefits of being a node directly, but at the end of the day, the core value is with a node. By running a node, you not only control your own money, but you get to vote on how that money, how the system that holds that money is going to run, and I think that's pretty important. Another interesting point to think about is that Bitcoin right now, Bitcoin is the only you know, system right now that has not gone through a contentious hard fork since Satoshi left the system. So if you run a node that was around, if you run the software that was around when Satoshi Nakamoto left the project, the only system that would continue to work with that node today is Bitcoin, right? So there are forked coins, and these forked coins are incompatible with that technology. So there is a technical continuity, I guess, if you will, with that. So, you know, a lot of people like to talk about, you know, Satoshi this, Satoshi that, like this was his idea, that was his idea. I mean,
the purists.
Yeah. Well, you could call them the purists, but you know, but the thing is that some people will say this was Satoshi's vision, and some other people say no, this was Satoshi's vision. So you have a clash, and I try to stay away from that and think more like, what is like the use case and why are people using the technology today? You know, based on what we see at Bitwage, and how our customers are interacting with it, and how our partner exchanges interact with the markets, it seems like people are using this technology as a store of value. Um, and so as such, we want to preserve the technology such that it can remain a store of value that is resistant to censorship, to coercion, and geopolitical manipulation.
I think that that idea still remains. What I say is that it's like the, how can I say, the victory of that model is the victory of a certain model of governance that people want to see in the world, actually. Centralized, automatic, and free, and how can I say, protected enough from like influences from the big decisions from government and corporation. Which now with the miners' influences, I think that that's in the end, like, back to Alexis' question, is that's how political things. When the nodes, they would say, oh, I think that they are interfering in that, in that vision of being, protected from geopolitical influences, whereas the miners say, oh, like, let's become more, competent, but not too sure if they actually want to become just more profitable for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that you have you have the yeah. I mean, you're exactly right. It seems. I mean, I think that the corporates, the miners, are sitting here and thinking, how can we profit maximize right now, and this is the preferred method. But they also realize that unless everyone agrees with that method, it won't necessarily be the most valuable on its own, which is why you don't see the miners all infinitely shifting to Bitcoin Cash, because if they did believe that all they had to do was switch over and all the value would come over, then they'd do that. But they have some sort of realization that there needs to be a greater consensus, at least currently.
Awesome, that's great. Let's move on to before we have two questions from Marcelo here before the video doesn't get too big, because I'm gonna have to edit later. It's gonna take time to do it. So he says, how do we feel about using Lightning networks in Lightning Network in Bitwage? I would say we would feel awesome to really use it, don't we?
Oh yeah, I love the Lightning Network.
How much do you think our operation is paying now in mining fees, like monthly?
Oh man, that's a good question. So
I'd say John said something about like $20,000
in mining fees monthly. No,
yeah.
No, we're not paying $20,000 in mining fees monthly. But
the mining fees last week was around like $40 or something.
What?
It reached as high as $40 last week.
Well, that's pretty high. No, I'd say that no, it's not. I mean, $20,000 is a seriously high amount of money. No, I would say that we are. Well, it's still a pretty penny. I think I don't want to go too into details on how much we're spending on mining fees, but I think that the more interesting thing about, rather than saving us money with Lightning, is allowing people to get paid, and when they get money in their wallet, it's already on the Lightning network. I think that is pretty interesting. Because I think the thing that kind of sucks about Lightning is you got to open the channel, right? And when you open a channel, it basically it's a regular Bitcoin transaction. So if Bitwage can just pay you on Lightning, then you'll already have you already have the money. You know what I'm saying? And so as a result,
even faster payments.
Yeah. Well, what I'm talking about is okay. Now you have money in your Lightning wallet, and you can just spend it directly on Lightning. You don't have to open a new channel. So, I mean, I don't know if you know exactly how it works, but basically, you know, if you want to do a transaction on Lightning, you put money into a sort of like an escrow wallet. And so that's a normal Bitcoin transaction. But once it's on there, then you're on Lightning. Okay? So if you wanted to every single time open up a new channel, then you'd have to do a new Bitcoin transaction each time. But if at one point you just wanted to open a channel like in the beginning with all the places that you normally like to spend with, and then you want to continue to spend there in the future, instead of opening a new channel every time, Bitwage pays you. And then when Bitwage pays you, you can essentially pay through your other channels, if that makes sense. Because then you'll have money in the second layer.
So actually, it's like a single block, and you don't need confirmations inside that block, right?
Yeah. Well. So the concept. So there's this concept of I create a Lightning channel. So there's this concept that I create a Lightning channel to you, right? And we could do transactions unlimitedly on that channel. What can basically also happen is I can get money. I can essentially get money on my channel, and on our channel, and then spend that money on a different channel. Is sort of the concept. And so if Bitwage pays me in this channel, then I'm continually getting a flow of money into my Lightning channel. And if that happens, then I don't have to go from off channel. I don't have to go from chain to channel every single pay period, which has fees and has delays. It's actually like instantly in my wallet as I get paid, able to be used on Lightning. So I'm really excited about this stuff, and we're connected with the Lightning people, Roast Beef over on Twitter, and the people over at Lightning Lab. It's actually kind of funny. Roast Beef is somehow he went to university with me, and one day we just we're talking to each other, and he's like, somehow Bitcoin comes up, and it's like, oh, you're into Bitcoin? Oh, you're into Bitcoin? Oh, interesting. And then it's like, oh, it's like, oh, you're like a core developer for Lightning. And it's like, oh, you're at Bitwage. Cool. It's kind of interesting how that kind of stuff just happens. But yeah, basically, long conversation short. I'm pretty excited about Lightning. Obviously, we have a lot of things, backed up for us just on the building out from the banking infrastructure side. But that is definitely something that we're interested in implementing.
Cool. And finally, let's make this the last one. And we can, the idea was to make it half an hour, so we're approaching 1 hour already.
Nice.
So about the support for different coins. He said for Litecoin, for Ethereum, and all sorts of altcoins. Like, how do you feel about that?
Well, we're not going to be opening the floodgates to any altcoin out there. That's for sure. But in terms of maybe offering certain different altcoins, we're actively looking at different altcoins right now. So I guess that's all I'm gonna say to that right now. But stay tuned on that.
Oh, cool. Cool. So I guess that's it, Jonathan. How do you feel?
Yeah. Cool.
Cool. So,
Nice.
like, for the people, para os brasileiros que estão acompanhando, se alguém estiver assistindo, eu vou colocar legendas em português depois. E a ideia é a gente fazer isso semanalmente, fazer uma conversa, e quem tiver dúvida a respeito da tecnologia ou dos direcionamentos da empresa, traz pergunta aqui para a gente, eu traduzo, se eu tiver com o Jonathan ou com qualquer outro convidado. E I guess that's it, right? Right, John?
What?
Yeah, I was just, explaining to people we're going to do this weekly. And I'm gonna put subtitles on, or on your answers, and so people can check on our channel.
Nice, cool. Yeah, I think one other interesting thing is not this time, just because it's the first one, but on the next video, and probably once a month, maybe a little bit more. I haven't decided yet. But definitely on the next one, we're at the end of the video. We're gonna provide a sort of a spot where you can put in your email so that you can get updates on when the next videos are coming. And for if you're a new person adding your email, we're gonna basically once a week or once a month be choosing someone at random to get a free ledger, which is a hardware Bitcoin wallet from France, and it's one of the top ones out there. So stay tuned for that next week.
Yeah, that's great, mate. That's great. We should be able to start that, pretty soon.
Yeah. Cool.
That's really cool. I have to say thank you for your time in this position, even though you're sick.
yeah. Well, thank you, Fabiano, for setting this all up. I guess look forward to doing this next week or so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So see you guys, and see you.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers, man.